Hi, everyone. This is Ray Luskin, award-winning author, artist, creative mindfulness mentor, and activist. Welcome to the Women Who Dare Virtual Summit. This is a place where we're bringing together women who are in the arts and health and social change. We want to talk about how they are making a difference all around the world every day. So today I'm very honored. I have Donna Beasley with me. She is an author, the president and publisher of KaZoom Kids Books and the KaZoom iStoryBooks reading app. And welcome. I'm so glad you're here today.
Oh, thanks. I'm so excited and, happy to be in this group of women who dare. So it's really a wonderful idea, and I'm glad to be participating in the summit.
Oh, I'm so happy. So why don't we start first with a little bit about your mission and your vision?
Well, I really am trying to create greater diversity in children's books. I mean, when I got started, I had went out to get some children's books as gifts for my niece, who I thought would be simple. And I went to 4 downtown bookstores, and now one of them had a child of color. I was really bothered by this. In a society where almost 50% of our children are multicultural, I just felt that, that should not ever happen.
Right.
And I set about to do something about it because I felt like it is a problem that can be solved. We've got the writers, the illustrators, the parents who would support it. So that's how I got started. And my background, I was already a publisher. I published a travel magazine, and I literally sold that and went into this full time to write and publish multicultural children's books.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. So let's talk about when you're writing. So you want to show them your latest book? Talk about that for a minute.
My latest book is called My Mama is Flying That Plane, and it is the story of the early days of aviation, when it was almost impossible for a Black woman to fly a plane. And it's just really a really good insight. A lot of people know about Bessie Coleman, but you don't really know that there were other people actually in the early days of aviation doing things. And my story is fictional, but it's based on a real story about an African-American man who started a flight school for women and for others who couldn't get into a regular flight school, and his own airplane manufacturing company. And that's where I got the story idea from. And I created the woman, the mother, and her 2 daughters who pursue this dream.
Wow, I love that. That's so empowering for young girls to hear those kind of stories. And even if they're not Black, anybody who's doing something that goes against the grain, because women have been put down and, for years, and you're not capable, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, and it doesn't matter, and it's like, I love to hear stories like that, period. But you making very specific, the multicultural aspect, I think is wonderful. So right now, you said you're publishing. How many authors do you have working and books are on your shelves?
So we've published around 12 books so far, and we've got 2 more that just came out, so 14. And it is, it's really been a joy to not only publish my own work, but to publish the work of other authors and illustrators. Because one of the first things I noticed when I came into the industry was that there was not enough authors writing these kinds of books. And, getting people to write about their culture is important, not just write about, there's so many women, let me put it this way. There are so many women who actually want to tell the story about their culture.
Right.
Especially now we have so many immigrants and but they don't know what to do. And so another part of what I do is coach women and, in helping them to write their first children's book that really comes from their culture. I write from my culture, and I'm encouraging people to write from their culture. And that way we get this great variety of multicultural children's books.
So let's talk about this program that you put together. So I know that's part of what your joy is now, is teaching and stuff. So how do, sort of walk us through, what would that look like if I came to you and said, I want to write a book about my culture? What would that look like?
Well, I actually, I have what I call the 5-step platform on how to get started on this so that it is not too challenging. In other words, I've created a program where anyone can write a story this way, and it really looks at, the goal here is to write a story you love, something that can inspire our youth. And when you really think about it, stories are told in threes, and that's kind of the power of three is what I teach. So, naturally, there's a beginning, middle, and end, but within that, there's the 3 steps in that, you know, 3 things happen. You got to have 3 solutions to the problem. Then you got to solve the problem, or, whether it's,
A mini hero's journey, sort of.
yeah, exactly. So, or it may be the story of, I have a client right now that I'm working with who wants to tell the story about her mother. And so, but she wants to tell it in a children's book. And this often happens where women want to share, something from their life that happened in a children's book that they can then share not only with their children, but with the world and the community at large. And so, it's just a wonderful way. I generally teach a course, and I only do it once a year uh, because I got a lot of other things I'm doing, but I do it once a year. And basically, my goal is to get them to write a children's book about their culture in just 6 weeks.
Okay. So I guess when I was writing some of my books, people said, make a list of, 100 stories that impacted you or, that you would want to share, those kinds of things. So I was just curious, what kind of prompts do you give people to get them going?
Well, yeah. So one of the things is, I believe in research. So if you are looking to write about specific genre like picture books, then by all means you need to go read some picture books
Right.
and collect them and really get an idea of what they're doing. But mostly, what I really get people to really think about is to focus on what is the main goal for their story, the log line. If you can tell me what you want your story to be about in 1 to 2 sentences, if it's a picture book, 3 sentences if it's a going to be a middle grade fiction or something like that.
Okay.
But you should be able. I'm teaching picture books because in 6 weeks that's all you have time to. You don't
Got
do
it.
middle grade fiction. But I have them hone in on what the story is about. You know, and if they can tell me that in 1 or 2 sentences, then they're clear on what it is that they want to do, and we can create that power of 3 framework
Okay.
using that.
Okay, that's really interesting. Okay. So what is your favorite book on creativity?
Oh, that without doubt would be Big Magic by Elisabeth Gilbert.
I know.
I love that book. It has changed my whole
All right.
philosophy about
So
creativity.
how has it changed your philosophy on life? Go ahead.
So prior to reading that book, oftentimes, as a creative, we often wonder, what will people think about my work? Especially at the time I read, this was right before my 2 books came out this year. And so, I was feeling a little self-conscious about, oh man, getting, every time you send a book out, it's your baby, and,
Yeah.
but after reading Big Magic, I had no fear. It's
Wow.
like my job is to create the book and send it out into the world. How the world accepts it, some people will love it, some people won't, but it's okay either way. And that freed me to like, all I got to do is my best work and send it out there. I don't have to worry about what other people think. I don't have to worry about how it's received. And that one tidbit, it really freed up my creativity. And I'm working on a novel,
Okay.
and it's my first novel. And I've written a novel, and I'm in revising it now. I'm in revision. And so, whenever you're doing something that's out of your comfort zone, and anytime you're writing something new for the first time, it's out of a writer's comfort zone. And but reading the Big Magic, it's like, yay, you're doing something out of your comfort zone, go for it. And I just love that whole attitude about the book. So that's my favorite book. And I recommend it to any creative person.
Okay, well, that's highly recommended. I enjoyed it as well. So I like the part where she talks about how she had an idea for a book and didn't do it, and then somebody else ended up writing
Oh,
that
yeah,
book.
that was interesting.
Because
Yeah.
I've had that happen in my life several times where I said, oh, I've got this idea for business, or I've got this, and I don't pursue it. And the next thing I know, so-and-so's got the identical thing going.
Yeah,
So I get
absolutely.
that. Yeah, it's meant to be birthed. I think the
Yeah.
stories are meant to be birthed. And it may be us who does it, it may be somebody else if we're not willing at the time to accept the challenge.
Right. And that's really what I like. I feel like I'm helping to turn mothers and grandmothers into storytelling superheroes, because by pushing them to get that story out and to get it down. And there's such a pride when people actually, get that story done. And I often tell them, don't worry about whether it's marketable. You're writing a story you love, because if you love it, your children will love it, and other children will love it, because we love learning about other people's culture.
Yeah.
We're all raising citizens of the world, right?
Right. Well, you hope so. I think there's a future. I think what you're doing and what you're saying is how we are going to change lives and minds. Because if you
Yes.
introduce them younger to find out the similarities as well as the differences, that they're, people aren't scary because they look different or they have a different religion or whatever. I think that the younger we can start these conversations and have empathy for people, that it will, we will co-create that world with more empathy and kindness and compassion. And it starts with stories.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is. Storytelling is a magnificent tool to reach not only children, but adults. But the other power of storytelling is that I think that it's important, is I think it's equally important for children to see themselves, their community, and their families in the pages of a book. Because growing up, when I grew up, Black people were not in children's books, or rarely in a children's book. And, that kind of, plays on your psyche, I think. And I like the fact that times are changing. And I know times are changing, because when I told you, when I started, I told you about how I couldn't find any children's books. Well, last month, July, I was in Minneapolis, and I went to the Mall of America. And there's a Barnes and Noble in the Malls of America. And of course, I naturally went to the children's book section. And as I looked around that section, I stopped counting at 20. There were at least 20 or more multicultural children's books in Barnes and Noble. They had everything from Black to Hispanic to American Indian to Asian to, I almost cried in the store. I was so moved by that the industry, is changing.
It is changing. And it's people like you who are sharing their voice, sharing their stories, and teaching other people how important it is, I think is the key to change. I mean, we have that. I want to talk a little bit about the practical side of the business, because you started something with the iStoryBooks, and you created an app. Can you talk about that a little bit?
So when I originally started out, I was like, well, what's going to set my company apart from other companies? Well, one thing was for sure is that I actually wanted to focus on ebooks, because I'd been an ebook publisher. So I told you I was a magazine publisher. Yeah. And so that is an industry that I knew, and I didn't have the cost of printing. So, but I wanted to even set myself apart from that. And I wanted books that had sight, sound, motion, and animation.
Wow.
And so I went about, like, how does one do that? How does one do that? And this was like 4 years ago. And so it wasn't, but I had come from the digital world, right? I'd been a digital publisher, and through the Apple Store, and Apple had the technology for it, to do that. But I did not realize at the time nobody else did. Okay. And of course, you can't use Apple technology, they're proprietary that way. But I talked to a girlfriend of mine and asked, who's an artist, how would I do that? How could we do it? And she created the most wonderful book, and it's called Zigzag Zoo, Opening Day. And in the book, the monkeys are screeching, the geese run across the page, the elephants, trunk rises, the lion jumps down. I was blown away because she made me realize it was possible. So we started out, doing a couple of interactive books that way, and it was hard to get. I wanted to create like this library, and the technology didn't exist in America. I couldn't
Wow.
believe it, except for Apple had theirs and Amazon had Kindle. But as an independent entrepreneur, none of those were resources I could use for my particular. And I found it in Europe.
Huh.
And it allowed me to actually create the app, where when you download the app and you could play the books and they would be interactive. And I just loved it. COVID has come along and made it really hard. We actually switched from being only an app to we switched to going retail, and now we're in Amazon and everywhere books are sold. And the beautiful thing about it is that now, because we're in Amazon, we can do print on demand. So all of our books, you can get them the printed versions as well as the ebook. And then of course we sell the ebooks on our website as well.
Okay, good. Yeah. I love that. So I was going to ask you if you do print on demand for your clients and stuff. So yeah, when I was doing the creative activist, I gave them my book to see what it would cost. Mine was full color and it was like they were going to charge me $48 a book. I said, I don't think so.
Oh,
They didn't want my business,
Yeah.
and stuff. But yeah, I think it's the way to go. And I was just talking to somebody recently. She's written a memoir, and and I said something about, are you going to share it with your kids? Because she doesn't really want to share it with the world. I said, you can do print on demand for family and friends, that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
So I think that that's has opened up a world because I think it's important to share our stories, like you said, to pass on to the next generation.
Exactly.
And whether it's the stories, it's the legacy you want to leave, it's the messages, your ethical will is, whatever it is. I think there are opportunities that we didn't have before, and just the technology has changed everything. So I love that. Yeah.
Everything. I mean, it's just, I've been in this field a long time, and this is the greatest time ever to be a writer and publisher, where you can control your own work, you can market your own work, you can build your own fan base. You can, that just was not possible, not even like 10 years ago,
right.
And
well, let's talk about that a little bit. How you build your fan base, your tribe, audience. I don't think tribe is the right word anymore. I think that's become, inappropriate, but you know what I mean. So
yeah.
So how do you do that online? How do you do that in today's world? And how do you market? What are your thoughts?
Well, one of the good things about being on Amazon is the largest marketplace. People actually go there to buy books. That to me. So if you're going on, if you're in Barnes and Noble, or you're in Amazon, or you in, and we sell ebooks, so we're selling ebooks to those stores as well. And so it brings the customers to you, so you can market and advertise actually right on Amazon. You can drive traffic to your books using social media, Facebook, for example, and Instagram. You can have, campaigns. And now you can actually build stores. You can actually build stores on Facebook. You can build.
All right, let's talk about that, because I'm a little behind the times on technology. So let's talk about building stores, because I don't really know about that. I'd love to learn.
Well, it's shops. It's called Facebook Shops.
Yeah.
And it allows you to put up your product, so that if somebody wants to buy your product while your ad is running, they only have to click the button, and and they can get it. And there's and Facebook is not the only one. Samcart is another one where they do what they call the one-page blueprint, where you put everything that you need a customer to know all on the one page. It might be a long page, but it's all on the one page, and at the bottom they buy it. And all you have to do is send that out. And so there's a lot of wonderful ways to market your books now, and because of social media. I mean, let's face it, and you can find, you talk about the tribe. Well, who would be interested in what you sell? and that's the beautiful thing about marketing in some place like Facebook, is that you can actually hone in on your target. You can, I can't put in there Black people because, they don't allow that.
Right, right.
But I can put in there mothers of children, 5 to 8, which is my category. Or I could put in there, maybe, people who are into the Black Lives Matter movement, because they possibly are younger with young children. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So even though I didn't say Black people, it knows that I'm interested in young people, that might have children that are ages 5 to 8.
Got it.
So I mean, there's ways that you can, segment where you can reach the kind of audience that you want to reach. And some people, I've seen people, I have not done it yet, but several of my colleagues, they start out with groups and they grow that group into, hundreds of people. And I do a meetup. I have a meetup group that I manage. And when I started, I had nobody in it. And now, there's, a couple of hundred people in it. So
That's
it's,
fabulous. Are you meeting
yeah.
virtually or did you meet in person?
Yeah, it's
before?
virtual. It's all virtual.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, it's about 100 people in it, I think. So, but it's focused on multicultural children's books, right? So that would be my audience.
Right.
And of writers, and these are fellow writers. At least I hope they're writers.
Yeah.
At least they're interested in writing. But yeah, I think the greatest thing that you can do to build your audience is to create content. Nobody knows about you if you don't create content.
Right.
I mean, I think what you're doing here is one of the ways you build that audience or that family of people who care about,
Right.
Using the arts in creative ways, serving the community.
Right.
So it is, so this is one of the ways, you
right.
create
I
content.
found a way to tell stories that I think are important, that have a message and a meaning that resonate with me. And hopefully then they resonate with other people. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
I wanted to ask you, because, what is next for you? What are you looking forward to doing? Or is there some project on the horizon besides your novel?
I do have projects on the horizon. I have the one I'm revising, and I have one that I'm writing. But what's really on the horizon for me is something I've been trying to do for over 5 years, and that is take an extended long-term vacation. I've been wanting to be a snowbird, leave, and so I'm finally doing it this first quarter,
Ooh,
2022.
where are you going?
I'm going to go to San Miguel de Allende in Mexico. I'm going to go to Lake Chapo, which is right outside of Guadalajara, and I'm going to go to Medellin in Colombia. And so I'm going to do like 4 weeks in each one, so that I can really. I'm hoping to meet artists. I want to meet.
Yeah.
I know. I want to meet other writers. I want to meet artists. I'm studying Spanish so I can at least, have a basic conversation. And I just have been wanting to do this for so long, and I'm just so excited that like it's almost time to go. It's almost here, and I finally able to make that dream come true.
Oh, I love it. So are you staying at like retreat centers, or what are you doing? I love to travel, so.
So in San Miguel, I'm actually going to attend Spanish language schools to improve my Spanish. And so I'm staying in their housing, which is more like Airbnb. In fact,
Right.
I'm pretty much in Airbnbs in everyone. So I'm renting them for a whole month though.
Got it.
So
I
in
know a
every
friend
city.
who did that, and he was in California, and he now lives down in San Miguel. He went down there and did that. Yeah, he lives there permanently now.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I'm going to rent an apartment in each location.
Okay.
And stay there for a month. And I'm going to also study photography because I never get it. I'm so busy. I don't really get to indulge my hobby of photography. And so by doing that and not having to, and of course, you can write from anywhere in the world. You can publish books from anywhere in the world. So I've always built my company to be able to go anywhere without having to be in the same physical space. So I am, but this is the first time I'm gonna be a digital nomad, and I'm super, super excited about it.
I'm impressed. The longest I ever went away was a month, when I went by myself. I've never done a 3-month trek anywhere. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm a little jealous. At the same time, the last few years, I've gone to California like 4 times because that's where my grandchildren live. I have some out there. I have, thankfully, two who live here 12 minutes from me in Northbrook. But yeah, I miss the travel. I have a vision of renting a villa for a month in the south of France. That's what I'd like to do, and have a retreat there with some people and do some artwork and, all the stuff you're talking about. Yep. All right. So before we end, I want to hear about your photography because I love to take photos. So.
Well, yeah, well, I started photography the year before COVID, and I did a lot of street photography and really getting into converting my pictures into being black and white photography. I really like that. And so what I hope to do on my travels is actually do some storytelling about the culture and the lives of children, because I'm into children's books and stuff, and I hope to meet interesting people and families and photograph that and just kind of make that my storytelling with is what I'm doing.
It's very much, it's an artist date. I think when you're creative, though, we have to, I think we can get stagnant in our one area or medium, and that when we cross-pollinate like you're doing, now you're going to do the photography as well. It only enriches your work. I believe that personally. So
Yep, I do too. And I'm hiring a person in each city that is a professional to give me some, spend a day with me, because I also want to improve as a photographer.
Right.
So I'm actually going to take some lessons from some of these local pros in the area.
All right. What kind of camera are you taking?
What
kind of camera?
Oh, I use a Sony 6000. It's a mirror camera.
Okay. Very cool. I so appreciate your time, and I can't wait to hear about your adventures after being a snowbird. And thank you so much. And so how can people get a hold of you, Donna?
They can visit our website at www.KaZoomKidsBooks.com, or they can reach out to me directly at my writer's site, DonnaBeasleyAuthor.com.
Thank you for being here today. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I'm a little jealous, as I said. So,
all right. Well, thanks for having me.
You're
Happy
welcome.
to be here. All right.